Okay, so then he says, next paragraph he says, feelings of violence accumulated early, but in his family there were no acceptable ways of releasing normal aggressive feelings. When these built up into felt violent eruptions, Augustus was only the more convinced of his unacceptable nature. For some time in his normal state as a teenager, he tried harder and harder to be, quote, good. And this meant the banishing of thoughts or impulses that were sexually inspired along various lines, aggressive, or even just unconventional. Considerable energy was used to inhibit these portions of his inner experience. The denied mental events did not disappear, however. They increased in intensity and were kept apart from his, quote, safer usual thoughts. In such a way, Augustus actually created a mental structure whose organization followed the principles I mentioned before your break. Unlike other circumstances and possessing different characteristics, another individual could damage a physical organ by literally attacking it, as surely as it might be assaulted by a virus. Because of Augustus's particular temperament and nature, however, and his native though conventionally undeveloped creativity, he formed a structure rather than destroying one. In his normal state, he accepted only the beliefs he considered were expected of him. As mentioned, there was a time before his condition developed when his, quote, good self-thoughts and his, quote, bad self-thoughts vied for his attention, and the body tried desperately to react to constant, alternating, and often contradictory concepts. What developed was a situation in which the conflicting sets of thoughts and feelings finally took turns, though Augustus maintained his own integrity for most of the time. But those beliefs that he shoved away were, by attraction, instantly seized by the other mental structure, again composed of ideas and feelings, combined into what you might think of as an invisible cellular organization with all capabilities of reaction. In his normal condition, Augustus thought of his own powerlessness, for he had denied himself normal aggressive action, and felt this weak. The beliefs activated the body's cellular memory, weakening the body and impeding its function. Yet, for a time, while performance was dulled, it was steady. A balance was maintained that suited his purposes. He became afraid that the body would go out of control and commit violent action because he was, of course, aware of the strength of the denied thoughts and feelings. When a crisis situation arose, or when he became lost in despair, an acceleration began that he pretended not to notice, and Augustus too would appear. Augustus too was filled with a sense of power, because Augustus considered power wrong and set it aside from what he thought of as his normal self. Yet Augustus knew the body needed the vitality that he had denied it. Therefore, enter Augustus too, with his great ideas of extraordinary power, vigor, and superiority. I am keeping my Augustuses straight. I hope you are too. And with fantasies of exceptional heroism and memories of all those denied by Augustus himself. Aggressive action, conveniently forgotten by Augustus, was now recalled with exuberant glee by Augustus too. As a result, the chemical nature of the body was instantly revitalized, muscular tone was greatly improved. There were changes in the amount of sugar in the blood and an alteration in the flow of energy throughout the body. I knew when Rupert interviewed Augustus that the young man identified Augustus too with the left side of himself. In his normal state, that side of the body contained more tension than the right. In Augustus too, the tension found release and the energy flow became more even after initial bursts of activity. The longer Augustus too stayed, however, the weaker his position became, a fact recognized by Augustus and Augustus too, you see, had to build up sufficient repressed thought. I need to start the sentence again. Okay. The longer Augustus too stayed, however, the weaker his position became. A fact recognized by Augustus and Augustus too. Augustus, you see, had to build up sufficient repressed thought and emotion because of a situation with which he could not cope. This threat would then bring about the emergence of Augustus too. The body behaves as you think it must behave. So, Augustus and Augustus too, with their alternating patterns of behavior, caused the body to react in quite different ways. Forget now that in this case such a division occurred. And imagine instead the successive thoughts and feelings that you possess. When you feel weak, you are weak. When you feel joyful, your body benefits and becomes stronger. Augustus's case simply shows in exaggerated form the effects of your beliefs upon your physical image. If you think, aha, then from now on I will only think good thoughts and therefore be healthy and inhibit my bad thoughts or do anything at all with them but think them, then in your own way you are doing what Augustus did. He began by believing that some of his thoughts were so evil that they must somehow be made non-existent. So, inhibiting what you consider as negative thoughts, or assuming that they are so terrible, is no answer.
So basically, he ignored his second self instead of recognizing that it's part of him.
Right, and it went on a long time before the second self really developed. I mean, yeah. And then Seth is saying that it's no answer just to ignore those negative thoughts. There's going to be another solution here. So then he says the chapter is to be called Health, Good and Bad Thoughts, and the Birth of Demons. And he says take a break, and we're going to go on. He says, your beliefs about what is desirable and what is not, what is good and what is evil, cannot be divorced from the condition of your body. Your own ideas of values can help you achieve good health or bring about disease, can bring into your experience success or failure, happiness or sadness. Yet each of you will interpret that last remark in line with your own value system. You will have definite ideas about what success or failure means, or what good or evil means, or is. Your own value system, then, is built up of your beliefs about reality. And those beliefs form your experience. Suppose you believe that to be, quote, good, you must try to be perfect. You may have been told or read that the Spirit is perfect, and hence thought that your duty was to try to reproduce that perfect spirit in flesh as best you could. To this end, you attempt to deny all imperfect thoughts and emotions. Your own, quote, negative thoughts appall you. You may believe also what I have told you, that your thoughts create your reality, so you become all the more frightened at mental or actual expressions of an aggressive nature. You may be so concerned about hurting someone else that you hardly dare move. Trying to be perfect all the time can be far more than a nuisance. It can be disastrous because of your misunderstanding. The word, quote, perfect holds many pitfalls. In the first place, it presupposes something completed and done beyond change, and so beyond motion, further development, or creativity. And then the next sentence we need to pay attention to. The spirit is always in a state of becoming, ever-changing, supple, and in your terms, without end, as it was and is without a point of beginning. That concept is very hard for us to imagine. However, it's important to understand that. So the spirit is always developing. Rupert said recently that if he was sure of one thing about physical reality, it was that it was not anywhere near perfect in those terms. But in the same meaning of the word, neither is the spirit, which to fulfill the requirement of perfection would have to be set in some state of completion, beyond which no fulfillment or creativity was possible.